Welcome back to Two Terrapins, and today I'm real excited to kick off a brand new series that's going to take us across the Sunshine State. I'm on a mission to explore all of Florida's 170 plus state parks and rank them one by one. From beaches to forests, I'll show you what makes each site unique, so join me and follow me as we discover the best of Florida's wild side. Now for our first stop, we're heading just outside Tallahassee, Florida to visit Lake Jackson Mounds State Park. This park is home to ancient Native American earthworks that date back over 800 years, and it's got a lot of history to uncover. But before we dive into that, let's talk about what else you can do in the area, specifically in Florida's capital city of Tallahassee. Tallahassee is about 5 miles from Lake Jackson Mounds, making it the perfect base for exploring the park. Now, with a population of around 200,000, Tallahassee might seem like a smaller city compared to Miami or Orlando, but don't let that fool you. It's packed with things to do, from its rich history to its vibrant culture, and there's something here for everyone. First, we have to talk about the Florida State Capitol. This iconic building is the center of Florida's government, and whether you're a history buff or just enjoy cool architecture, it's a must-see. You can even take a tour and head up to the 22nd floor of the new Capitol building for an amazing view of the city. Tallahassee is also known for Florida State University. Whether you're into college football or not, you'll want to check out the FSU campus. It's beautiful with historic buildings and lots of greenery, plus you can visit Doak Campbell Stadium, home of the Florida State Seminoles. If you're lucky, you might even be able to catch a game while you're in town. If you're looking to relax after a day at the park, head over to Cascades Park. It's a beautiful urban park with trails, ponds, and a splash pad for the kids. Plus, there's an amphitheater where you can catch live music and performances during the evenings. It's a perfect spot to wind down and take in some fresh air. Tallahassee makes a great companion to a trip to Lake Jackson Mounds. So let's get back to why we're here, exploring the history of one of Florida's most fascinating archaeological sites. When you first pull up to Lake Jackson State Park, you're greeted by this really beautiful sign showing that it is an archaeological site. There was plenty of parking. It wasn't too busy when I visited, but of course that could change for you. Admission is $3 and it is by the honor system, but make sure you pay. Paying admission to Florida State Parks directly supports the maintenance, preservation, and enhancement of these natural areas, ensuring that they remain accessible and enjoyable for future generations. From there, you're greeted by this kind of large courtyard space with a few scattered picnic areas and also your restrooms. The restrooms were fairly clean, and you had a little bit of information right on the side and a nice little map that shows you the two major trails of the park, and then of course the two main mounds that you can visit. Unfortunately, on the day that I was there, the little boardwalk that would cross a small creek was closed. However, because it was really dry the past few days in Florida, you could easily walk over the creek and head on over to the main mound. Before you head over to the main mound, you do have this shaded overhang area that talks a little bit about the history of the park. And I'll talk a little bit about that history now. This park might not be as well known as some of Florida's other state parks, but it's a hidden gem when it comes to history. These mounds were built over 800 years ago by the Fort Walton culture, a Native American society that was part of the larger Mississippian culture. The mounds served as both political and religious centers, where leaders were buried and ceremonies were held. At its peak, this site was home to 7 mounds, though only a few are visible today. The largest of these is a platform mound, which would have been used for the society's elite for ceremonies. Imagine this whole area filled with people, leaders standing atop the mounds, overseeing important events while the rest of the community gathered below. But the mounds are just one piece of the puzzle. Archaeologists have discovered a variety of artifacts here, including pottery, tools, and even copper plates that were likely traded with other Native American groups from as far away as the Great Lakes. This tells us that Lake Jackson wasn't just a local hub, it was a part of a much larger network of trade and communication. After the area was abandoned in the 1500s, the mounds were slowly reclaimed by nature. It wasn't until the 1960s that archaeologists began serious excavations, and in 1966, Lake Jackson Mounds was added to the National Register of Historic Places. A few years later, it became part of the Florida State Parks system, ensuring that this important site would be protected for future generations. Thanks to these efforts, we can now walk these same paths and experience the history of the people who once lived here, and the park does a great job of preserving the natural beauty of the area while making it accessible for visitors. Now that we are leaving the overhang, let's head over to the main and largest mound on the site. So heading up the larger mound on the site, you're greeted with a really beautiful view over the park and some of the big Spanish moss and oak trees that are scattered throughout Lake Jackson Mound. There is a sign that talks a little bit more about the historical significance of the site. However, as you can see, it isn't in the best shape. So now heading down the larger mound, we head over to the left and visit the smaller mound. The smaller mound was absolutely beautiful, just surrounded by these wildflowers, and you could see all kinds of different bees and butterflies and other insects, all just flying around. Really peaceful, really beautiful. Definitely, to me, the highlight of the whole Lake Jackson Mounds State Park. All right, it's time to give Lake Jackson Mounds State Park its official Terrapin ranking out of 10. So let's get started looking at a few different categories. First, let's talk about the scenery. The park is quiet and serene with towering oaks draped in Spanish moss and beautiful walking trails. The mounds are impressive in their own right, but the park's natural beauty is more subtle compared to some of Florida's other parks. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for scenery, perfect for anyone looking for a relaxing, reflective experience in nature. Next up, we have recreational activities. While the park is primarily focused on its history, there are a few good hiking trails that will take you around the mounds and through the forest. I will say that when I visited, there was a lot of mosquitoes, so definitely keep that in mind for future visits. There are also some picnic areas where you can enjoy a peaceful lunch, and also if you want to bring your family, I think it would be a really great park for that. However, the park doesn't offer as many high-energy activities like kayaking or biking, so I'm only going to give it a 6 out of 10 for recreational options. For facilities and accessibility, the park is well maintained with clean restrooms, ample parking, and there are several shaded picnic areas. To enter the park, there is a park fee, which is completely on the honor system. It's $3, and the trails are mostly flat and easy to navigate. So the park overall is pretty accessible for most visitors. I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10 in this category. For wildlife and nature encounters, Lake Jackson Mounds is a great place for nature lovers. One of the most impressive things on the site was all around the mounds were just growing and teeming with wildflowers. The wildflowers had all kinds of butterflies, bees, and all other insects just surrounding the mounds, making for a really beautiful sight. We did see a few different species of birds and some smaller wildlife while walking the trails, but you're not likely to see any large animals. Still, the park's peaceful atmosphere makes it a great spot for bird watching or just enjoying the quiet. I did see, walking back, this really great little turtle here, so I'll give it a 6 out of 10 for wildlife and nature encounters. For uniqueness and historical significance, we come to what really makes this park truly special. Lake Jackson Mounds is one of the most important archaeological sites in Florida, preserving ancient Native American mounds and offering a glimpse into a culture that existed here over 800 years ago. For uniqueness and historical significance, it's easy, 9 out of 10. So after tallying up all the scores, Lake Jackson Mounds gets a final score of 7.2 out of 10 terrapins. It's a must visit for history buffs and anyone looking for a peaceful day surrounded by nature.